Hello again. Fresh wash, as you can tell. So, are we all ready for Chapter 8? Get your favourite blanket and your teddy. Get nice and snuggled up and ready. Chapter 8. Jenna paused in her chewing. While the captain had been chatting away, Jenna had almost cleared her plate, realising just how hungry she really was. She was thinking of what she might need to ask when another familiar smell drifted through the door. This smell wasn't pleasant at all. It was the smell of burning rubber. Jenna thought back to her grandfather's fire pit at the back of the garden. He had occasionally used old tyres to get the fire going. She supposed there was always some rubbish that needed burning, but the look on Captain Robinson's face told her this was not a normal smell up here. She looked disgusted and also concerned. Jenna looked into the captain's eyes and asked, "Can we go and see what's making that smell?" "I think it's best we do, in case it's my ship." Both rose and walked out of the door at the other end of the bar, Jenna waving to Tom, who returned the wave with a half smile on his face. Outside they could see black smoke coming from one of the docks. As they walked down the street, it became clear that it was the Catcher where the smoke was coming from. They both quickened their pace. As they jogged along, Jenna couldn't help but wonder why they were the only ones panicking. Everyone else seemed to act as though everything was normal. Was it? Did fires happen so often here that no one was bothered? As they got closer to the ship, they could clearly see the ship wasn't on fire at all. Someone had built a fire on the docks and was heating a large pot. By the smell, there had to be rubber in the pot. They slowed to a walk. When they reached the dock and walked closer, started to see the rope and pulley systems around the fire. Caleb was sat on a stack of crates, scribbling away on a scrap of paper. He only looked up from his paper as he heard the bootsteps from Captain Robinson approaching. Even then, he only looked at the pot. "Before you ask, it's an experiment. How it works will determine the future of this ship, or doesn't work, depending how it goes. I've taken your ridiculous idea, young lady, and twisted it to my advantage." Captain Robinson, looking confused, picked up a piece of his paper and looked at it intently. "What the heck are you actually doing, Master McDade?" The young lady suggested rubber barrels, which, as we know, doesn't work. They won't hold any lightning. But what I'm trying is dipping the barrels in rubber, almost like a jacket, to see how they fare. And just how do you expect to test them without a storm due until tomorrow, when we all have to leave? A friend of Smithy has a hand cannon. The aim isn't the best, but it still has the required kick. Not quite raw lightning, but it's a start. Now that I'd like to see. Jenna spoke up, reminding them both that she was still there. "So would I, especially considering it was my idea, even though you get the credit." Caleb snorted and motioned for the ladies to step back. He began pulling on a rope which brought a barrel out of the Catcher's hold over the bubbling pot. He released the rope and grabbed another. Gently pulling this time, the barrel was lowered into the vat. There was a slight hissing and what could only be described as a large fart sound as it sank into the thick liquid. Caleb counted down in his head, physically nodding from side to side with his own count. After what felt like forever, he pulled a third rope, raising the barrel out of the vat. He took a moment to look the barrel over before grabbing a fourth rope, which carefully eased the barrel down to a spot on the dock. As he released the rope, Caleb kicked over the barrel nearest him, which turned out to contain water, extinguishing the fire and creating another awful smell. Smoke billowed everywhere, acting as a thick cloud of its own, hiding all the ships if you stood in the right place. Jenna thought sights like this only happened in fairy tales. The smoke moved with the winds, ships came in and out of existence, and there were moments where there was nothing but white and her own thoughts. She was in the middle of thoughts of home, her granddad and poor old Lenny. She wondered if they were missing her while she was off on her adventure. She was halfway through thinking how to explain all this to her granddad when she heard Caleb speak to her before he appeared through all the smoke. "Smithy's just got here with a hand cannon. Once the smoke clears, we'll be testing it. Shouldn't be long with this wind. and as though his words were magic, a wind swept across the docks, carrying the blanket of smoke out across the clouds. Smithy stood talking to Captain Robinson while pointing at a small gun in his hand with a tank on the handle. That must have been the hand cannon they were talking about. He looked over to Jenna and gave a smiling nod before talking more to Robinson. Jenna was shocked. She didn't realise the old grump had a smile in him. After another moment or two, he motioned to Jenna to come over, which she did. When he spoke, his voice was firm, but his eyes showed fear. I'm about to fire this at the barrel, Master McDade. Master McDade dipped in the rubber. Fair warning, if this doesn't work, we're all about to be hit with lightning, and it ain't pleasant. If it works, and that's a big if, then we've got a lot of dipping to do. I'd advise you to stand behind us. I'm not sure your frame can take as much as ours. Captain Robinson playfully pushed his shoulder. Are you trying to call me fat, Ian? Of course not. And you, young lady, if you ever use that name, I'll throw you overboard myself. He smiled at Robinson and Jenna before turning to face the barrel. Everyone else had cleared the dock, except for Caleb, who had hidden behind a wooden pallet. Smithy held the cannon at arm's length, its black metal shining in the sun. He wound the cog on the side of the cannon, which created a fizzing, tearing sound. He opened his mouth and called loudly, "Stand clear!" With that, he squeezed the trigger. There was a blinding flash of light, and the barrel made a large bang. As it bounced up 2 feet, spinning, as it landed, still spinning, it took off across the dock and fell to the side of a ship. Robinson, Smithy, and Jenna all ran across to see where it had landed. Caleb threw his notepad down, cursing at it. A waste of time, of rubber, and of money. All it did was make it bounce as I said it would. So they still break, but they bounce while they do it. Just bleeding what... Smithy called out, cutting him off mid-sentence. Oh, Caleb, dear chap, you need to see this. Caleb continued muttering as he walked across, waiting to see what damage had been caused by the bouncing barrel. He ushered the others aside, looking down into the gap. There, bobbing on the cloud, was the barrel, looking untouched. Well, what do you know? You broke the gauge, Smithy. It's saying it's still full. You know how expensive those things are. Smithy bristled at this. He had only followed orders. The only thing broken is your eyes, McDade. That barrel is fine. All we need is someone to fetch it up, and we can check it over. I guarantee the only flash we saw was from the hand cannon. So who's going down there? He looked around, and everyone had put their finger to their nose. Even Jenna had done so, copying the others. Well, thank you very much. You lot can hold the ropes. With some clever rope work, Caleb had fashioned a sturdy harness for Smithy, and he was lowered in no time. Lifting him back up took some work, especially with the added weight of the barrel. But working together, they all did it. Once the barrel was on the dock, Caleb pulled out what looked like a hollow knife from his chest pocket and touched it to the gauge. Immediately, the little knife thing glowed red. Caleb spoke in a quiet mutter. Oh, I'll be. It worked. He raised his voice again. Get that fire going again? I need 3 crewmen to get all the barrels dipped. No slacking. I'll be in my lab making notes. With that, he walked over to the dock and up the boardwalk, onto the ship. Jenna gave a small chuckle. Does that man ever smile? Captain Robinson stepped to her side. If he ever does, let me know. I'll throw a party. He's always been a misery. Anyway, I still have things to tend to with Ian in town. Looks like Captain Jones is on his way back, so I'll leave you with him. Try and be careful with him. He may act the big man, but he's still young yet. You know how silly boys can be. Jenna had another little laugh as she watched the pair walk away, nodding to her own captain as he approached the dock. After a brief look at the large cauldron, he walked over to Jenna. He's taken your idea, then? No, not at all. He's taken his idea, and then complained about it all. No change there. He does nothing but complain. I swear he should be an old man by now. They shared a small chuckle between themselves, followed by Captain Jones nudging Jenna with his elbow. Look, we can't go anywhere till tomorrow, So tonight there's been a small gathering organised in the tavern. You're very welcome to come along if you'd like." Jenna smiled wildly again. She loved parties. "I'd love to. Will there be music and food?" "What kind of party hasn't got food or music? I do have something for you, though." He reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a small leather purse. "In here is 15 silver coins. It's not a great amount, I know, but it should get you some clothes that actually fit from the tailors. Can't really dance around in that big shirt all night." Jenna took the purse from him and threw her arms around him. "Thank you so much. I'll be back as soon as I can." Without another word, she ran towards the port and the stores, all excited at the thought of new clothes. Captain Jones smiled as he watched her run down to the shops. He had jobs to get done on board, so he boarded his ship and started calling out orders to the few crewmen still on board.